March 24th, 1945. 25,000 feet over Berlin. Captain Roscoe Brown of the 332nd Fighter Group spots 3 German Me-262 jets diving toward the B-17 bombers his squadron is escorting. The Me-262 is the world's first operational jet fighter, 150 miles per hour faster than Brown's P-51 Mustang, armed with 4 30mm cannons that can tear a bomber apart in seconds. Brown pushes his throttle forward and turns into the attack. Jet fighters represent Germany's last technological advantage in the air war. They're faster than any Allied fighter, harder to hit, and devastatingly effective against bomber formations. Luftwaffe pilots in Me-262s have been shooting down American bombers at rates not seen since 1943. Brown's orders are explicit: protect the bombers, no matter what. He closes on the lead jet, compensating for the speed differential, leading the target. At 1,000 feet, he fires a burst. Tracers arc across the sky. The Me-262's right engine explodes. The jet rolls inverted and falls. Brown has just become one of the first Allied pilots to shoot down a German jet in combat. More significantly, he's prevented that jet from reaching the bombers. 0 B-17 will be lost to that particular threat. The Tuskegee Airmen, pilots of the 332nd Fighter Group, all black, all products of a training program the Army Air Forces created reluctantly under political pressure, have earned a reputation. Bomber crews request them by name. The distinctive red-painted tails on their P-51s mean protection. They've been flying escort missions for 13 months. In that time, no bomber under their direct escort has been lost to enemy fighters. Not one. No other fighter group in the 8th or 15th Air Forces can make that claim. This record was built by pilots the Army Air Forces initially said couldn't fly complex aircraft or handle the stress of combat. Pilots who trained at a segregated facility in Alabama, while white aviation cadets trained at integrated bases. Pilots who faced skepticism from bomber crews who didn't want black fighter escorts. The Luftwaffe didn't care about American racial politics. They called the 332nd red-tailed devils and avoided bombers the group escorted when possible. This is how the Tuskegee Airmen silenced every critic, not with words, but with a combat record no one could dispute. If you want military history about soldiers who proved themselves when institutions doubted them, subscribe right now. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. The Tuskegee Airmen's achievement took 50 years to fully acknowledge. The Tuskegee Airmen exist because of political pressure, not military planning. In 1940, the Army Air Corps operates under strict segregation. Black Americans serve as cooks, truck drivers, and laborers. No black pilots exist in the military. The Army Air Corps maintains this policy as based on evidence. Studies claim black Americans lack the mental aptitude and physical coordination for aviation. These studies are pseudoscience, racial prejudice disguised as research. But they provide justification for exclusion. Civil rights organizations, black newspapers, and sympathetic politicians challenge this policy. The Pittsburgh Courier launches a Double V campaign: victory against fascism abroad and racism at home. The NAACP files complaints. First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt publicly questions the exclusion. In January 1941, under pressure from President Roosevelt, The War Department announces the creation of a training program for black pilots. The program will operate at Tuskegee Army Airfield in Alabama, a new facility, segregated, isolated from white training bases. The choice of location is deliberate. Tuskegee Institute, a historically black college, provides infrastructure and support. The segregated facility ensures black cadets don't interact with white cadets. The Army Air Corps can run the experiment without disrupting normal operations. The first class begins in July 1941. 13 cadets enter training. 5 graduate in March 1942, receiving their pilot wings and commissions as second lieutenants. They become the first black military pilots in American history. Captain Benjamin O. Davis, Jr. leads this first class. His father, Benjamin O. Davis, Sr., is the Army's first black general. Davis, Jr. graduated from West Point in 1936, enduring 4 years of silencing, the practice where white cadets refuse to speak to black cadets except for official business. Davis understands what the program represents. Success means opportunity for black Americans in aviation. Failure means confirmation of prejudiced assumptions. Every flight, every test, every mission carries weight beyond individual performance. Training at Tuskegee follows standard Army Air Force's curriculum: ground school covering navigation, meteorology, aircraft systems, and tactics; primary flight training in PT-17 biplanes; basic training in BT-13s; advanced training in AT-6s; transition to combat aircraft. The standards are identical to white training bases. The cadets are not given easier tests or relaxed requirements. They must meet the same benchmarks as white pilots, or they wash out. Washout rates at Tuskegee match rates at other training bases. Approximately 40 to 50% of cadets fail to complete training. This isn't evidence of inferiority. It's evidence of consistent standards. Aviation training is difficult. Many cadets, regardless of race, lack the aptitude or temperament for combat flying. Between 1941 and 1946, Tuskegee trains approximately 1,000 pilots. Nearly 450 deploy overseas for combat duty. The remainder serve as instructors, stateside pilots, or wash out during training. The pilots face skepticism from day one. White officers at Tuskegee believe the program will fail. They expect high washout rates, training accidents, and evidence that black pilots can't meet standards. When cadets succeed, these officers attribute it to lowered standards, an accusation with no factual basis, but persistent nonetheless. White pilots in operational units hear about the Tuskegee program and assume the worst. The prevailing belief: black pilots might handle basic flying, but will crack under combat pressure. They lack the killer instinct necessary for aerial combat. The Tuskegee Airmen will spend the next 3 years proving every assumption wrong. The 99th Fighter Squadron, the first unit of Tuskegee pilots, deploys to North Africa in April 1943. They fly P-40 Warhawks, an older fighter aircraft already being replaced by P-47s and P-51s in frontline units. The assignment reflects the Army Air Force's minimal expectations. Give them outdated equipment and easy missions. If they fail, the risk is contained. The 99th joins the North African campaign, flying ground attack missions supporting Allied forces in Tunisia. Their first combat mission occurs June 2, 1943, a dive-bombing attack on Pantelleria, an Italian island fortress. The mission is successful.
All aircraft return. No unusual problems occur. The pilots perform as trained. Over the following weeks, the 99th flies dozens of missions, strafing runs against German positions, bomber escort over Sicily, patrol missions along the coast. They encounter German fighters occasionally, engaging in brief dogfights without decisive results. This performance matches new fighter squadrons generally, competent execution without dramatic victories or failures. For most units, this would be considered normal. For the 99th, it becomes evidence of inadequacy.
In September 1943, Colonel William Mohmeyer, commander of the 33rd Fighter Group, to which the 99th is attached, submits a report criticizing the squadron's performance. Mohmeyer's report claims the 99th lacks the aggressive spirit necessary for fighter operations and recommends the squadron be relegated to coastal patrol duty. Mohmeyer's assessment is contradicted by mission reports showing the 99th completing assigned objectives and engaging enemy forces when encountered. Other squadron commanders in the 33rd Fighter Group don't share Mohmeyer's concerns. The report reflects Mohmeyer's prejudice more than objective assessment, but it reaches Army Air Forces headquarters and influences planning. Senior officers debate whether to continue deploying black fighter squadrons or restrict them to non-combat roles. The debate ends when the 99th transfers to Italy in early 1944 and begins flying missions with the 79th Fighter Group. Under different command, flying more demanding missions, the squadron's aggressive spirit suddenly appears. In January 1944, the 99th provides air cover for Allied landings at Anzio. During one mission, Lieutenant Charles Hall shoots down a German FW-190, the squadron's first confirmed aerial victory. Over the following months, the 99th shoots down multiple German aircraft while losing fewer planes than comparable squadrons. The 99th's success in Italy coincides with the deployment of 3 more Tuskegee fighter squadrons, the 100th, 301st, and 302nd. These squadrons form the 332nd Fighter Group under Colonel Benjamin O. Davis, Jr., who has been promoted from squadron commander. The 332nd deploys to Italy in February 1944. They initially fly P-39 Airacobras and P-47 Thunderbolts before transitioning to P-51 Mustangs in summer 1944. The P-51 is the finest American fighter of the war, long-range, high-performance, perfect for bomber escort. The 332nd's mission assignment reflects their proven capability. Bomber escort for the 15th Air Force, protecting B-17s and B-24s striking targets deep in Germany and occupied Europe. This is the story of pilots who faced skepticism, flew the hardest missions, and built a record no one could dispute. If you want military history that shows what determination and skill can accomplish, subscribe right now. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. These pilots changed American aviation forever. Bomber escort is the most demanding fighter mission. Fighters must maintain formation with slower bombers, stay with them through enemy territory, and protect them from German fighters that attack throughout the mission. Escort fighters can't break formation to chase individual targets. Their job is protection, not kills. Many fighter pilots dislike escort duty. The glory is in dogfighting and achieving ace status, 5 confirmed kills. Escort duty limits opportunities for individual victories because fighters must stay with bombers rather than pursue enemy aircraft.
The Tuskegee Airmen approach Escort differently. They define success not by kills, but by bombers protected. Every bomber that reaches its target and returns safely is a mission accomplished. This philosophy, combined with tactical discipline, produces extraordinary results. In summer 1944, the 332nd Fighter Group paints their P-51 Mustang tails bright red. The distinctive marking serves identification purposes. Bomber crews and other fighters can identify 332nd aircraft instantly. But the red tails become symbolic. To bomber crews, red tails mean safety. To German pilots, red tails mean avoid those bombers if possible. The 332nd establishes tactics specifically for bomber protection. Close escort. Fighters fly tight formation with bomber boxes, no more than 1,000 feet away. German fighters attempting attacks face immediate interception. Patience. When German fighters approach, 332nd pilots engage only enough aircraft to turn the attack. They don't pursue fleeing enemies. They return to bomber formation immediately. Communication. Constant radio contact with bomber formations. Flight leaders coordinate with bomber commanders, adjusting positions to cover threats. Discipline. Individual glory matters less than collective mission success. Pilots who break formation chasing kills face immediate reprimand. These tactics work. From June 1944 through April 1945, the 332nd flies over 200 bomber escort missions deep into German territory. They escort strikes on Berlin, Vienna, Munich, Ploesti oil fields, aircraft factories, and rail yards. Every mission faces Luftwaffe interception. German fighters attack in formations of 20 to 50 aircraft, trying to overwhelm escorts and reach bombers. They use slashing attacks from high altitude, diving through bomber formations firing cannons, then climbing away before escorts react. The 332nd disrupts these tactics. Red-tailed P-51s intercept attackers before they reach bombers. When Germans dive through formations, red tails pursue, forcing enemy pilots into defensive maneuvering that ruins their attack runs.
The results are measurable. Bombers escorted by the 332nd suffer far lower losses than bombers escorted by other groups. The most remarkable statistic emerges over time. No bomber under 332nd direct escort is ever lost to enemy fighters. 0. This claim requires clarification. Bombers are lost on missions where the 332nd provides escort. Shot down by flak, mechanical failures, collisions. But when 332nd fighters are directly covering a bomber formation, German fighters don't break through to shoot down those specific bombers. Other fighter groups have excellent records too. The difference is the 332nd's consistency. Mission after mission, the Red Tails bring their bombers home. Bomber crews notice. Pilots and crew chiefs request 332nd escort. When mission planning assigns 332nd fighters, bomber crews feel relief. The Red Tails are coming. We'll get home. This reputation contradicts every assumption the Army Air Forces made about black pilots. They were supposed to lack the discipline, skill, and courage for sustained combat operations. Instead, they're performing the war's hardest mission better than anyone expected. German intelligence documents captured after the war mention the 332nd. Luftwaffe intelligence identifies American fighter groups by their markings and assesses their capabilities. The 332nd is noted as aggressive in defense of bombers and
difficult to draw away from formations. These are tactical assessments, not racial observations. German pilots care about capability, not skin color. The 330-second performance earns their professional respect and their caution. March 24, 1945. The mission is Berlin. 1,200 miles round trip, 6 hours in the air, through the heaviest air defenses in Europe. The 332nd launches 25 P-51s to escort B-17s, striking the Daimler-Benz tank factory. Captain Roscoe Brown leads one flight. First Lieutenant Charles Dryden leads another. The bombers they're protecting carry men whose lives depend on the Red Tails. The flight to Berlin is uneventful until the target approach. As bombers line up for their runs, German fighters appear. Me-262 jets, the Luftwaffe's last hope for air superiority. The Me-262 is a revelation in aviation technology. 2 Junkers UMO jet engines give it a top speed of 540 miles per hour, 150 miles per hour faster than the P-51. 4 30mm cannons deliver devastating firepower. The jet can dive through bomber formations, fire, and climb away before escorts react.
Luftwaffe pilots have been using Me-262s to inflict heavy losses on bomber streams. The jet's speed negates the escort fighter advantage. By the time P-51s react to an attack, the Me-262 is gone. But the jets have weaknesses. They're fast in straight lines, but turn poorly. The jet engines are unreliable and take time to spool up from low power. And pilots must commit to attack runs. Once diving, they can't adjust course quickly. Captain Brown sees 3 Me-262s positioning for attack. He recognizes the pattern. The jets will dive through the bomber formation from above, firing as they pass through, then use their speed to escape. Brown doesn't try to catch the jets in their dive. Instead, he positions to intercept after they pass through. The Me-262s attack as expected, firing at bombers, missing due to high closure rate. As the lead jet climbs away, Brown is waiting. At 1,000 feet range, Brown opens fire. His .50 caliber machine guns hit the Me-262's right engine. The engine explodes. The jet rolls inverted, pilot unable to control. The aircraft spirals down. Brown's wingmen engage the other 2 jets, forcing them to break off attacks. No bombers are hit. The Me-262 threat is neutralized. The mission continues. Bombers hit their target, turn for home. The 332nd escorts them all the way back to Italy. Every bomber returns safely. Brown's victory is confirmed. 1 Me-262 destroyed, witnessed by multiple pilots and bomber crews. He becomes one of the first Allied pilots to shoot down a German jet in combat. More importantly, he prevented that jet from shooting down bombers. That's the mission. That's what matters. The Berlin mission exemplifies the 332nd's approach: tactical discipline, mission focus, protecting bombers above personal glory. Brown could have chased the fleeing Me-262s, potentially scoring more kills. Instead, he returned to formation, ensuring no other threats reached the bombers. This philosophy produces the 332nd's remarkable record. The Tuskegee Airmen's combat record silences critics permanently. The 332nd Fighter Group flies 15,533 sorties during the war. They engage enemy aircraft on hundreds of missions.
Their confirmed victories? 112 German aircraft destroyed in aerial combat, plus 150 destroyed on the ground during strafing missions.
These numbers don't match top-scoring fighter groups. The 4th Fighter Group has 583 victories. The 56th has 674. But the 332nd's mission was different. They prioritized bomber protection over kill counts, a strategic choice that cost them individual victories but saved hundreds of bomber crew lives. The losses tell a more significant story. The 332nd loses 66 pilots killed in action over 15 months of combat. This casualty rate is lower than most fighter groups in the European theater, where 100-plus pilot losses are common. Most significantly, 0 bombers under direct 332nd Escort are lost to enemy fighters during 200-plus missions. This achievement is unprecedented. No other fighter group can make this claim. The 0 bombers lost statistic requires historical accuracy. Post-war research confirms the claim with qualifications. Bombers on missions with 332nd Escort were lost to flak and mechanical failures. Some bombers escorted by the 332nd during portions of missions were lost when other groups took over escort duty. But no bomber under direct, continuous 332nd protection was shot down by enemy fighters. This record results from tactical philosophy: protect bombers above all else, discipline, don't chase kills, and skill, intercept threats before they reach bombers. Bomber crews recognize this. Testimonials from B-17 and B-24 crew members specifically praise the 332nd. One bomber pilot writes, "When you saw red tails forming up with your formation, you knew you'd get home. They never left us." The Army Air Forces awards the 332nd Fighter Group the Distinguished Unit Citation in 1945, one of the war's highest unit decorations. The citation specifically notes their outstanding courage and aggressiveness in bomber escort missions. This citation contradicts Colonel Momeyer's 1943 report, claiming the 99th Squadron lacked aggressive spirit. The same organization that questioned black pilots' capabilities now officially recognizes their exceptional performance. But institutional change comes slowly. After the war, the Army Air Forces, which becomes the independent U.S. Air Force in 1947, continues segregation until President Truman's 1948 executive order. Even after formal desegregation, informal discrimination persists for years. Many Tuskegee Airmen leave military service after the war. Some pursue commercial aviation but face discrimination. Airlines won't hire black pilots. Others become instructors, businessmen, or return to civilian careers. Few discuss their wartime service publicly. Benjamin O. Davis, Jr. stays in the military, eventually becoming the first black 4-star general in the U.S. Air Force. His career spans 35 years, including command positions in Korea and Vietnam. In 1995, the Tuskegee Airmen receive recognition 50 years late. The Air Force commissions a study examining their combat record. The study confirms the 0 bombers lost claim and documents their exceptional performance. In 2007, President George W. Bush awards the Congressional Gold Medal collectively to the Tuskegee Airmen. Approximately 300 surviving airmen attend the ceremony. Many are in their 80s and 90s, finally receiving national recognition for achievements from 60-plus years earlier. In 2012, The Air Force dedicates a display at the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force honoring the Tuskegee Airmen. The centerpiece, a restored P-51 Mustang painted with red tail markings. The Tuskegee Airmen proved what institutional racism denied. Black Americans could fly complex aircraft, handle combat stress, and perform at the highest levels of military aviation. They didn't just meet standards, they exceeded them, building a combat record that stands among the finest in Air Force history. They silenced critics the only way that matters, with undeniable achievement.